Welcome to Directionally Correct, a PL's podcast with Cole and Scott. Today's guest, Chris Butler, founder and CEO of One Model, in our HR Tech Voices series.
Hey, Directionally Correct fans. If you're looking to stay connected to the podcast, make sure to subscribe to our Substack newsletter, watch our videos on YouTube, or listen to the podcast on your app of choice. This podcast is dedicated to you to help educate and entertain you on how to effectively do people analytics. We are a listener-supported podcast, so please consider becoming a patron. If you'd like to support the podcast by becoming a patron, you can find a link to sign up in the show notes or at patron.podbean.com/directionallycorrect. Thanks for being a listener. All opinions are our own and do not reflect those of any other organization.
What's up, Chris? Look at this.
Hey.
Happy what, Friday? Friday for you?
It's Friday, yeah. Living in the future.
He's never heard that joke before.
Yeah, right.
It's probably my standard response, too.
What does the future hold? Anything exciting happen in the future right now?
I'm one day closer to Saturday. That's for sure.
There you go.
It's beer and wine Friday afternoon.
I was talking to someone yesterday that lives in the UK, and because of that, they have to, of course, adjust their schedule to the American schedule. And he was saying that his director had contacted him for a meeting on a Friday night, so he just busted out the bottle of wine. He's having a glass of wine. Of course, it's 10 a.m. local time in Seattle, and the boss like, what's going on? He's like, it's Friday night. I'm having a glass of wine. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I've done that before. Yeah, these cups are great for those types of activities.
I think the key is just like kind of blow on it every so often. Like it's a hot cup of coffee and just like let give the impression.
That's right.
Well, for those that are listening that don't know this, Chris, you're based in Australia. What part of Australia are you based in?
Yeah, I am based in Australia now, so I'm on the Sunshine Coast, which sounds idyllic. And it kind of is, but it's about an hour north of Brisbane. One of our Australian office is in Brisbane itself.
I figured it was all the Sunshine Coast, right?
Yeah, close to. Well, for the last few weeks, it's been wet. So
now is that by the Barrier Reef, or is that further north?
Reef is about 5 hours drive north, so we're a bit below that, but you can get there fairly readily.
I figure that's like Texas. Both Cole and I lived in Texas, and 5 hours. Hey, that's a little day trip.
Yeah, you can do it easily.
We've actually been watching this crocodile show on Netflix with my kids, where it's a guy, I think he's based not that far from that area, where he goes and rescues crocodiles, and he's building like this thing along the beach for his family. It's a really good show on Netflix. You guys should check it out.
Oh, cool. We'll do. Yeah, Steve Irwin Zoo is just down the road from where I live. It's not far.
This is like, half the population crocodile hunter. That's what I've heard so far. Well, Chris, I know you started a while ago at Inform or Info HRM. I'm not sure which way you pronounce it. Was that based in Australia as well, or is that somewhere else?
No, it was based in Australia. So yeah, there were core offices in Brisbane, but over time as they expanded, offices in the US, the UK. So they ended up being, for a small company, fairly global.
How did you get into that industry in the first place? So, I mean, from my understanding, Inform was one of the early pioneers in kind of this, HR technology, HR metrics space. And I know a few offshoots of people that are pretty well known have come from that organization. But how did you get into that, and what was that like?
Yeah, I think Richard keeps threatening to write a book or a history about some of this one day, but I fell into it. I graduated college, university in 2001 to right after the .com bust as a software engineer. There wasn't a lot of jobs around locally. Australia tends to lag kind of what's going on as well. So struggled to get a job out of college. Ended up writing actually some of my own software and selling that off during that time. But got to a point where a mate of mine was working on boats up in the Whitsundays doing overnight sailing trips. He's like, mate, just come up here and jump on a boat and work for a while. So I ended up doing that, and that turned into about 4 to 5 years of working around the islands on sailing ships and fishing charters, and met my wife up there on one of the islands before realizing, hey, I've got to make a decision here. Do I go and get a real job or do more in this area, get some larger skipper's tickets and do that? So ended up applying for a job at Inform didn't really know what they did. Went through the interview process, got an offer for a data engineering role. So not even on the software engineering side, it was on the data side of the house. I'm like, great, that'll get me back there into Brisbane. I can see where we go from there. So yeah, went down to Brisbane. I think it was around 2006, 2007, somewhere there, and got involved in how do we build people data systems from the ground up. So did that working, directly with customers on how we did so. Started leading a bunch of the teams, and we were working from Brisbane with global customers. I was in US teams supporting Starbucks and General Dynamics and Comcast and all these big blue chip companies that were early adopters of people analytics itself. So lots of good experience. But that company was ultimately sold to SuccessFactors in 2010, and it is that product is still alive as the SuccessFactors workforce analytics product and planning product today. It was SuccessFactors was acquired by SAP, so it's now SAP SuccessFactors, and they've tried to replace it a bunch of times with SAP Analytics Cloud, but it still has a lot of capability from what was built 25 years ago that they haven't necessarily been able to replace. So yeah, I ended up moving as part of those acquisitions, coming over to the US in 2012, working with a bunch of customers directly, building a team, and starting to realize that the product we had wasn't cutting it for what customers needed and how people analytics teams themselves were evolving.
What did customers need at this point? Like, what sort of hole did you see in the marketplace?
They're asking to do a lot more with their data. They wanted more access to it. They wanted to be doing more complex things. They wanted to be moving it around to other places. And particularly in that time, there was a huge migration from on-premise into the cloud. Everyone was moving from on-premise SAP, PeopleSoft up into Workday and SuccessFactors. So there was a huge migration. And we kept saying no in what we could do. We were very tight and defined about what we could deliver. And that's somewhat painful to me. There was capability to do more there, but we couldn't move them in that direction. So in noodling a lot of these points, like one model itself started as, how do we help grease the wheels on this transition from on-premise into the cloud? How do we help move this around? And to do so, you've got to understand a lot about the source systems and how they behave and how we get access to all of that, and ultimately where that destination is going and how it behaves. And so if you take those source systems, we could understand it in a central model or a central understanding of that data set. And if we understand the endpoint, we could almost route it through one to the other, and really started kind of building out that concept about what that would look like.
Maybe that's a good place to just kind of pause for a second. For anyone out there that doesn't know what one model does or is, can you just kind of describe the company and what the benefit is for the customer?
So we are an end-to-end people analytics platform. It's been our job to help customers understand their workforce. And we built a platform that can go after not only all of your people data, but other workforce contextual data as well that you want to bring in and connect in. So we provide the data platform for doing so. We've been heavy on how we orchestrate that data, which is actually back to some of that lineage. How do we understand all of this data and manage it to allow it to scale? And then layer on top the value extraction tools. How do we then drive value out of that data itself? So yeah, we can go end to end, but we do so in a very flexible manner. There are no constraints, which somewhat comes back to this thesis too, and why we built it the way we did is, we didn't want to say no. We built for a platform that could answer a lot of those questions or needs that those customers had from those days at SAP.
Well, I think what's exciting, because I think there's some scoop today in terms of having you guys on the podcast. So, we've had Richard Rosenau has joined us, One Mile sponsored us in the past. And we talked about some of the exciting work that's been going on in the past, but I think there's some really new bleeding edge work that you guys are doing with AI agents that you wanted to have a chance to talk about today, Chris. So I just wanted to tee you up there because I'm pretty excited to have this discussion.
Yeah, and I'll talk your ear off all day around it, but certainly happy to move into that. And I think the strength of what we built, and starting with that orchestration layer, really understanding it is what's driving these new advancements and how we go forward. So the ability to really manage any data set and bring it through the governance layers about how you understand all the metrics and security layers to get that out there at scale to tens of thousands of users in the right way has been fundamental for kind of how we move into this AI era. And maybe I'll start with kind of how we understand the AI space, and particularly how we see it developing for HR. What we see becoming available now, we're terming as enterprise AI. I think a bunch of others use it in that fashion. But really, what is the chosen AI platform that you're using within the organization? We would see that as the enterprise. So whether that's going to be a ChatGPT, a Copilot, if anyone's using Claude, it's kind of the central foundation LLM that drives everything else. And we see that as really the entry point for most everything that you're going to do. If you look at one model in delivering dashboards and reporting, today you would go directly to it. We don't think that's going to be the case in the not too distant future. You'll go through your AI, you'll be asking questions, and one model will be a second order interface. So it will surface, you've asked this question, it will give you the answers, but then, hey, you want to learn more? Here's content that is already speaking about that you can dive into and understand more about it. So it becomes second order.
When you say that, like a customer would be able to like talk to their data in that way, there's like ask how much headcount do I have? Where's my greatest attrition risk, or whatever they got to say.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can do that. You can do that today in our assistant within the product. We've got a prototype where we're embedded within ChatGPT, and you can do the same from within ChatGPT, and it routes through into one model. And that's part of creating. One of the thesis we have is the real product or productivity outcomes come through tooling. So tools accessible to the AI are hugely important in how we go forward. And it's one of the reasons why we haven't seen AI be massively productive to date, is because you're only just now starting to see it open up to be able to access tools that are out there in the space. And that's where the rubber's really going to hit the road in terms of productivity. So we see one model as being a tool available to the enterprise AI to be able to talk to, to be able to answer those questions. So that ChatGPT or whatever you choose will be able to say, hey, this is a people question. I've got all this data in one model. I can talk to its agents and try and answer that and develop whatever's needed. Or I need to go to the Workday agent to get these things and really combine multiple of those pieces together where it needs to. So we see that world. And I think a lot of what's being developed within SaaS is about toolifying, access to the platforms that are already out there. Because they already provide the governance, they provide the security, they provide the guardrails that AI is limited to what it can get wrong. That's probably one of the most important aspects of it.
And you just brought the security right there. Like, how do we guard companies' data security and balance that with providing answers from, say, like a third party, one model?
Yeah, you've got to have the right governance and security layers in place, and particularly with analytics, because you've got different data sets coming through, you've got to go further than what your core HR system provides, which is why we provide an extra layer of security. And you can automatically define rules, you can put pieces in place, but it's got to go several steps further. And it's one of the reasons why, I think platforms like one model are essential in kind of how we go forward to using people data, because you need a larger construct. And the general IT type knowledge about how to secure and govern any of these things misses a whole lot of context that is hard to deliver. I don't, and particularly in AI, everyone's talking about AI is going to be able to build replacements for SaaS platforms. It's the death of SaaS and everything else. That's not the case because of a lot of the guiding factors that you need to be able to push through and understand and govern that model. And without it, you are, the big risk is that you're going to open up data that people shouldn't have access to. And as soon as you do that, everything gets shut down. We lose 6 months or more on really trying to define what went wrong and how do we correct things from a general case. That's actually one of my biggest fears of kind of people moving too fast in AI direction in HR itself.
Well, talk to us more about these agents and the opportunities that they have for automating workflows, automating data flows, boosting productivity, and delivering insights at a scale that maybe people analytics hasn't done before.
Yeah. So if I talk about what we're doing, we've been opening the platform up to be a set of tools.
Yeah.
And we've been teaching our AI, our agents to operate those tools. So they're almost the same tools as what you would use as a user going in and out and how you would do that. But it means that the AI is then governed by the set of rules and authority that we have in place around it. And it's important because if you're running a math query, you shouldn't be hallucinating on those pieces. And the query engine is pure math in what it does. And I actually think we've been somewhat unique in this space. Others have created predefined libraries of what you can surface within an assistant and within a query. Almost like there's a golden set of queries that you can run, but that's not where we sit because we're so flexible. We can take data from anywhere. We've got to be able to answer anything that comes in and understand the context of it. So we're teaching the AI to operate the tools that are already massively useful, how to understand that and how to move it through. So what we're building is really, you can think of it as a people analytics team itself. I want to call it a support team because it's not going to replace a people analytics team itself, which has always been some people's concern. We're building the tools around how do we get, the agents that get data into the system, how do they model it? How do they stand it up quickly, ready for the content agents to be able to build on top of, the analysis agents to really dive into and understand that data and start surfacing value from it, all the way through to how that's used and making that open to enterprise AI. It shouldn't be locked down where you're logging into one model. I actually think most people won't understand that they're logging or they're using one model in the way that they operate it on a day-to-day basis. The tooling that we've gone after first has been core around data engineering and data orchestration. We need to get data in much faster. There's going to be an explosion in the need for more data outside of the core people data that we have today. That most people analytics teams are kind of living in this box around people data. That's going to expand, and I think that's one of the impacts on people analytics teams that we can get into. So we've got to move this data through quickly. So what we have built is teaching it how to code in our tools, the data models that we build, and in one model you can see everything that we do. You can see all of the data modeling pieces and how that layers up into metrics layers and all these pieces. So the agents have become quite adept at coding, and particularly in how we code people data. And it can, in a matter of minutes, create a full plan around a new data set, rebuild the full data model, show you what changes it's going to make, validate those, present that back to you and say, hey, I'm going to do all this. And you go, yep, that's great. Go ahead, put it in, get it out there and make it available for us. And so then we can use it on the visualization engine. And, in another month or so, we're creating content with those agents as well. So all of the metrics and dimensionality and storyboards that we have in our content packs or our insight packs that we release around subject areas is the next step. And I think by the end of the year, we'll be doing straight out brand new bespoke data sets, understanding what they are and bring it through and modeling it all the way in. So the intention is to move a lot of this into customers' hands. Our team actually takes a lot of this on now because customers don't have data engineers. We supply people that can do that and work with that data and are experts the same way that I used to do it Inform and SuccessFactors SAP. That we do that now, but that under this model, that really needs to be a customer-facing capability. You should be able to pick up a data set, drop it in, and have it integrated and connected to the larger data model and start analyzing that. So as you're collecting new data or, as you're starting to work with a new team, bringing their data in that's specific to them, even though it's not core people data, is hugely important for understanding the workforce itself. So that really greases the wheels about how we go out there. And we've always had a habit of choosing the hardest problems first. We have the flashy stuff that's out on the front end, but we haven't gone as far, because we see the real problem as being how do we really expand the universe around the data to then be able to consume it downstream. And these are difficult engineering problems to go about and handle, and they cannot get it wrong. And it's one of the reasons why we build our own agents, and we don't use an LLM for straight shotting this stuff through, is the amount of error that comes through when you do that is not acceptable. And when you've got 100-step process or 1,000-step process to move data through and make it ready, you only need one piece of that to error before everything else downstream is wrong. And LLMs are horrible at hallucinating in ways that you don't expect them to. So the core agents that we started with are really now, there are hundreds of them with focused jobs and guardrails around what they should be doing, so that can move through, because compounding error is really what we're trying to avoid here. We cannot have one error then impacting on the next step and moving all the way through.
That's just my life.
Right.
Butterfly effect.
Yeah.
Chris, let me jump in here, because this is so exciting. And I know that people are listening right now. They're going to want to say, okay, I believe you, Chris, but I want to see it. And so what I'm sharing on my screen really quick is, I just got so tickled about this. One model created a directionally correct landing page on their website. So it says, is your people analytics AI strategy directionally correct? And those insight packs that Chris mentioned, those are going to be coming out right when this episode launches, because we record about a month in advance. And so if you want to book a demo to learn about some of these things and say, trust but verify, this is the exclusive place to do so. And what's also neat about this is they put videos about Chris talking about this and all of our previous podcast episodes from when Directionally Correct was sponsored. So I'm just so tickled about this, but I'll put a link to this in the show notes, and there's a QR code as well for people who are listening. But if you're wanting to learn more about like what AI agents could mean for your organization, definitely check this out here. But Chris, this is fascinating. I don't know what got you, what is your guys' AI strategy and vision as you move forward? Because I presume this isn't the end. You mentioned there's some things coming out in a month. There's some things that should be available by the end of the year, but where are things going from here?
Yeah, well, this is a never-ending journey. We have re-architected basically the whole company around this direction and how we do this. So everyone's focused on it. We're building out to be able to run the entire platform with AI tooling, and putting that in the hands of customers so that they don't have to interact with data engineer on our side. They'll be reserved for the more complex problems, like where we're integrating multiple HRIS systems, and there's more oversight that needs to be on that. But a lot of this will become self-service. If you've got a data engineer in your team, they're going to be massively more productive. If you don't have one, you can do a lot of these pieces yourself with doing that. I think where it gets really exciting is deploying, more of the value extraction layers. So agents that are going after these analysis problems and understanding through the totality of that data what's going on in the business. And that's one of the pieces that we'll be rolling out is wading through that. So, akin to, if you think you've used the deep research reports with GPT and Gemini and others, looking at kind of deep analysis questions and how do we really wade through that and build content that allows us to communicate, the outcomes of those analysis pieces as well. I think that's hugely powerful that will come through. But for people analytics teams, that capability to move much faster and then analyze that data means that that there is going to be a larger need, and there's going to be a larger need for data sets that are outside of the typical domain. Believe we need to go after more operational data sets, what people, how people are actually working, what they're doing, how they're running through those pieces, more productive operational type data to really understand kind of what's moving through and how they're actually working in their jobs itself. And AI is understanding how people are using AI, I think is part of that as well. Nobody is capturing appropriately today. So that non-human, human interaction of the workforce itself is something that needs to be measured to really understand as well. So that to me is the expansion that we need to go after as people analytics teams. We need to move from a macro focus of kind of our world of the business, which is generally kind of people, down into being able to work with more granular teams and supporting individual teams. And you can do that when you can just move much faster. You can pick up their data, drop it in, start talking with them about it, and start analyzing those pieces. So that to me is the exciting prospect, and what I think will drive demand for a lot more analysis of the workforce and need for bigger people analytics teams overall.
I can already see the future, and like I'm going to go in the exact opposite direction of you. Like this is going to put me out of a job, and then I'm going to be the captain of a yacht. I'm going to be a captain of a boat eventually, right?
You and Chris are like on inverting.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's going to make you more productive, Scott. Maybe you put it that way.
Oh, I
a lot more done.
But you're so right. Like all these sort of operational data, I perform network analytics quite frequently in my role, and like these sort of things are orthogonal to typical HR data, right? And they provide such a unique way to look at the organization and how they operate and develop insights to make people more efficient.
Yeah. So integrating those pieces as well as the understanding of what's out there. I mean, we've had customers in the past that have brought through cafeteria data and what people are eating in the cafeteria and how that relates to them coming into the office. And so there's a whole there's a world that we don't touch and understand that is the quality of life type aspects of work.
Well, do you have a sense of like what people are asking the model? Like what do your customers want and learn from the one model system?
Well, today the assistant is obviously limited to the data that we have in there, but they can be asking questions around anything. Normally for the bulk of queries, it is the basic stuff you'd expect. I need to know these people who are treated during this area. Give me a list of all the high performers and who terminated during these pieces. And if we've got associated data with that, if we've run attrition models or we've done these things, we can surface and provide that up as well. But that's because most companies are still limited to kind of that insular world. And I think we've got to move beyond to be able to ask more intelligent questions.
And there's going to be some like basic sort of things that people want to know, right? They probably are never going to go away, right?
No, they'll always be there, and they'll probably always be the bulk because I need some of these simple pieces, and we'll have to teach people how to analyze data more intently, and when you've got and how to use the tools to be able to do that and get it in their hands and help guide them that there's a massive world of possibility that you're not tapping into yet, and help move them along that transformation.
Chris, I think it's probably time to unleash the confusion matrix on you.
The confusion matrix.
We got a few questions for you. If Cole enjoys your answers, he will make you a social media tile as always. You can share it with your friends and family, whomever you wish. Okay. All right, Chris, what's the most dangerous animal you've ever encountered?
Most dangerous? I guess I've been around a lot. We see a lot of snakes out in the bush, but I think the ocean's actually more dangerous. I've been about this far from a blue-ringed octopus, which I think is one of the most dangerous creatures in the ocean. So that was probably it. They are, I think, even more venomous than many snakes or most snakes.
Cows are like one of the most dangerous animals in the world. Like, what were you like on the beach, just like Brisbane or somewhere? And
well, snorkeling out on the reef. So when I used to work up north and on the boats, snorkeling out of the Barrier Reef itself.
Cole, do you have an answer for this? I don't have a good one.
Not really. I mean, I grew up next to swamps. Those were kind of dangerous, but not on any level compared to Australia's oceans or rivers and bodies of water. I feel like those are next level.
I'm a city guy. The most dangerous animals are just people I encounter on the street, no doubt, 100%. I'll frame it as a question. I'm fascinated by a road train. A good old-fashioned Australian road train. Have you ever seen one?
Oh, all the time. Yeah.
So do you know what a road train is, Cole?
Oh yeah, we covered it. I remember with Andrew from Polynote a while back, but let's explain what it is to the audience.
Well, they have like 20 cars, and they just go across the continent, just cruising.
Yeah, well, they're about 3 to 4 really large trailers out there, and they're generally out west, but you can get them in close. So,
Oh.
yeah, when you're traveling around, you see them a lot, and they do some serious speed too.
Well, it's just like open road, right? Like we got stretches in Texas where it just has like no speed limit. Like
Yeah, if you see
whatever
them
you
coming, you're generally better off pulling off the side of the road and letting them go.
Oh, how do you feel about Vegemite?
Love it.
Love it.
Love it.
Okay.
Yeah, toast, butter, Vegemite. It is a thing of wonders that we grew up on, and is a great hangover cure.
Have you ever had this, Cole?
No, I've never actually even seen it to buy, but if it's a hangover cure, that sounds very useful.
Concur. I've never actually had it. I've heard other people describe it as very flavorful. It's got like a very distinct sort of flavor to it.
It's massively salty, but it's the scrapings from inside a beer barrel, basically, that they then stick into a jar and sell to you.
Let's see. Okay, last one. Have you ever had an awesome blossom?
A what?
Have you ever been to Outback Steakhouse?
Oh god.
So the blooming onion, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. The awesome blossom is the chilies, but yeah, the blooming onion.
Yeah, I have.
Is Foster's the best beer?
No, we don't have that here. That's only you get that in the UK and other places, but not Australia.
You're funny. I mean, their tagline was like Foster's Australian for beer, and they don't even have it in Australia. That's wild.
Get an oil can of beer.
Yeah, yeah, you get those giant ones around, in the States and in the theme parks.
Where both Cole and I went to grad school, there was a grocery store, and it was called the County Market. It was right on the main road there.
Yep.
And it was the only place that I saw that had these sort of 30-ounce cans of beer anywhere in my life. And I think they just sold it there. And that was excuse.
It might be the only place.
Yeah. It was like $1.99.
Well, I think we've kind of petered out the confusion matrix, and I don't believe we're doing a nerdery today to keep it a little bit shorter. But Chris, I did want to leave you with kind of one big question that I think would be fun to answer. You've been in the, HR technology space now for 2 decades, maybe longer. And you've been an innovator and a pioneer. What keeps you excited about this space? And what does the future of people analytics and HR technology look 5 or 10 years from now, in your perspective?
I think the pace of change and the capability that we're seeing coming through is what's massively exciting. I haven't been as excited for what we can do ever through this company. Everything's moving so fast right now that the speed of what we're discovering and what we can move through is massively exciting. And it's a stressful time to move through too, because we've got so many moving pieces that we're building and developing, and we're pushing our teams hard to move through that and get that out there, because it is in almost every way an arms race that's going on, not only for the AI vendors, but how do you use and deploy and get this out there in a way that can scale. And that is the challenge that I guess drives you and is the exciting piece about how do we bring this to bear? How do we make it available, and how do we change the lives of our customers and what they're able to achieve? Yeah, the next 5 to 10 years, it's even hard to look that far out.
Yeah.
To what's possible. We know what we're looking to achieve over the next 12 months to 3 years and what that will look like. Beyond that, it starts to be really hard to see. And actually, a question for you guys. I was watching Eric Schmidt this morning, just released a TED, or TED released a video with Eric Schmidt from Google, where the headline was AI is underhyped. And
Interesting.
Humans are very good at underestimating both the downside outcomes to things as well as the positive sides. And the capability that's going to be there is just really hard for us to imagine what we can do with it. One of the things we have to be careful about is that we do it safely and kind of where we go in those directions, and we govern that appropriately. But I'd even ask you guys, do you think we are underhyping the value of where we'll be in the space and what that means to HR as well?
Well, here's a promise I want you to make me. And I think this is related to the hype, is within 5 years, I don't want anybody who does people analytics to have to write their own SQL query, to run their own report, to build their own dashboard, or to build their own API connectors ever again. Do you think you can make that promise to me, Chris?
Yeah, we can do it sooner than that.
Yeah. What do you think, Scott?
We started this podcast about 3 years ago, and it was before like the real like launch of LLMs. ChatGPT essentially came out October of 2022, something like that. And the pace of change since there has been just phenomenal. I agree. We have no idea what 3 years down the road is going to look like, or what we're going to be capable of. I keep hearing estimates that or projections that humans are going to be slower to adopt AI than expected. All right, it's going to be a slower adoption. There's going to be like a lack of trust, this sort of stuff. But I also hear stories of say like younger generations that are coming out of college right now. They use these sort of things. They use these tools in ways that older generations don't. Just like when the iPhone was released, they adopted it immediately, but it took, a couple years, 3 years for older generations to come on board. I think that we're going to see a swath of the population that's just, it's second nature to them to use Gen AI as an assistant or LLMs or what have you, AI in general. I guess my summation is I don't know. It's a wild and fun future. That's what I do know.
Well, I'll come back for a second to what I was saying about the SQL queries, the reports, the dashboards, the API connectors, cleaning up data if you wanted to add that as a fifth. I think your traditional individual contributor in a people analytics function at 80 to 90% of companies, if not more, spends almost all their time doing those things. And so I ask it that way, and I kind of hype it that way to say it's not even 5 years out that those things can be fully automated. And you can make an argument that one model is automating them today in terms of the release that we just announced. And so we have to be thinking about what does people analytics look like in the future and how we add value when those things that we spend a lot of time on today that frankly I just see as like the plumbing and the janitorial work of HR and of people analytics start to get automated. And I think it's a fascinating discussion, but do you have any thoughts or any reactions to that, Chris?
Yeah. And the plumbing or the janitorial work. I mean, we should be making it. We should be making it that, and we should be having the AI do it because that's a hard maintenance task that we can then focus on other areas. We already have a lot of that engineering built and released to our internal team to be able to do a lot of that. So we're speeding up those processes massively already, and making that customer facing through end of year and all of those pieces is already on the horizon. So it's not that far out from having that capability. I don't think people are thinking enough about what that means for them and how they need to be reorienting their thought processes around what they can achieve, but also how they're going to get this out to people. And I mentioned some of my fears earlier, but I am concerned that if HR and people analytics doesn't take a bigger role in enabling that and providing the right, particularly governance and security layers around it, that IT or someone else is going to come in and say, hey, we're going to build these things and get all of your data in this RAG repository and use it in these ways. And it's not going to have the right level of access and security that's needed and required to be able to expand that. And it will end up slowing things down rather than speeding it up. So we'll be
Moderna, the pharmaceutical company, just announced that they were merging their IT and HR functions for just this reason. So there's no distinguishing between those two. And so this is a trend that's coming and we need to be prepared for it.
Yeah. And we need to look at it now. You have to start doing it now. And so if you don't have proper governance layers around that data already and the ability to scale that in a machine context, it's going to be really hard to move forward.
No, that's the real ROI right there, right? That just the speed at which you can change, the speed at which you can impact changing your organization, right?
That's right. Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Well, I'll say it again for those of you who are curious about this kind of provocative discussion we've had about AI and you want to learn more about what one model can do. The only place to find what we've discussed today is in the link that's going to be in the show notes. And if you subscribe to our Substack, it's going to be in there as well as along a QR code. This has been a fascinating discussion, Chris.
Yep.
Really appreciate what you guys are doing at One Model. Scott, any parting words for Chris before we wrap up?
Chris, I love that you already lived in the future. I love that for you. How can folks reach out to you should they want to learn more about One Model?
Through that page, you can get in contact with us. There is an actual product demo there, so you don't have to plug in to see what's going on. There's a recording. But through that link, through our website as well, you'll be able to get in touch with us. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn as well, and I can connect you with who you need to.
So, Chris, do you ghost people on LinkedIn or do you actually respond? This is a running theme on the podcast.
If they send me, like, if it's a legitimate message, I'll respond. If it's somebody trying to sell me something, then generally not.
All right, you've been warned, Chris. You're about to get flooded. Your inbox is going to go crazy. All right, man. Well, thanks so much for joining us today, Chris. But you've been listening to Directionally Correct, a People Analytics podcast with Cole and Scott, and today's guest, Chris Butler. Thanks for joining us, Chris.
Thank you, guys.